Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we're down on the south bank.
Yeah, it's a bit like crazy and wild.
It's very quiet and peaceful.
Right.
As I'm sure you can hear. We decided to go for a little walk, and this is where we wound up. So we're going to read from the Bhagavatam. We're starting a new chapter today. Where are we at?
Canto 3, chapter 29, texts 1 and 2.
Okay. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. What's the title of the chapter?
Explanation of devotional service by Lord Kapila.
Okay.
We do apologise for the bins. There's nothing special about these bins while we call them in the frame. This is always silly.
Yeah, it's just if we turn the camera too far that way, you're going to get things that are worse than a bin.
Yeah.
So
we won't go into what's happening over there, so it's a bit funny, sorry. Alright. Devahuti inquired, my dear Lord, you have already very scientifically described the symptoms of the total material nature and the characteristics of the spirit according to the Sankhya system of philosophy. Now I shall request you to explain the path of devotional service, which is the ultimate end of all philosophical systems. In this 29th chapter, the glories of devotional service are elaborately explained, and the influence of time on the conditioned soul is also described. The purpose of elaborately describing the influence of time is to detach the conditioned soul from his material activities, which are considered to be simply a waste of time. In the previous chapter, material nature, the spirit, and the Supreme Lord or Super Soul are analytically studied. And in this chapter, the principles of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service, the execution of activities in the eternal relationship between the living entity and the personality of Godhead are explained. So it's just a synopsis of what's coming.
And what has been. So what is coming and what has already happened. Okay, so we'll read the next paragraph. Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, is the basic principle of all systems of philosophy. All philosophy which does not aim for devotional service to the Lord is considered merely mental speculation. But of course, Bhakti Yoga with no philosophical basis is more or less sentimental. There are two classes of men. Some consider themselves intellectually advanced and simply speculate and meditate, and others are sentimental and have no philosophical basis for their propositions. Neither of these can achieve the highest goal of life, or if they do, it will take them many, many years. Vedic literature therefore suggests that there are three elements, namely the Supreme Lord, the living entity, and their eternal relationship, and that the goal of life is to follow the principles of bhakti, or devotional service, and ultimately attain to the planet of the Supreme Lord in full devotion and love as an eternal servitor of the Lord. Yeah, two types of people, mental speculators and sentimentalists, and then three elements, God, the jiva, and the service from the jiva to God, and vice versa, which is bhakti. So bhakti, bhakta, and Bhagavan.
Okay, next paragraph. Sankhya philosophy is the analytical study of all existence. One has to understand everything by examining its nature and characteristics. This is called acquirement of knowledge. But one should not simply acquire knowledge without reaching the goal of life or the basic principle for acquiring knowledge. Bhakti Yoga. If we give up Bhakti Yoga and simply busy ourselves in analytical study of the nature of things as they are, then the result will be practically nil. It is stated in the Bhagavatam that such engagement is something like husking a paddy. There is no use beating the husk if the grain has already been removed. By the scientific study of material life, the living entity and the super soul, one has to understand the basic principle of devotional service to the Lord. So the point is that sort of what I understand is like we can study the world around us and the material nature and this, but if it doesn't bring you to the stage of personalism or the level of spirit on a personal basis, then it was all for no point.
Yeah, I mean, I might say it goes a little bit further, that it's like not only a personal concept, but the principle of bhakti, which is service to that personal form of the Lord.
Right.
Yeah, so if that doesn't happen, then it's a shrama eva hi kevalam, simply a useless waste of time. And one might argue then one might need to start with that in mind. And by starting with that, means one needs to start with that kind of principle of God and what is to go. But people may be in ignorance. But I think in the previous paragraph, Prabhupada said, but that might take someone, hundreds of lifetimes.
Yeah. And it's easier, like I'm just looking at these trees. It's easier to take just one leaf from that tree, put it in front of you and study it. Who decided the shape? Because they're all the same shape on that particular tree.
Yeah.
Who decided the colour of that particular, it's not just green, like when you're a kid and you put shade in green. And then you see on that one leaf, just the one leaf, and there's loads of trees there, and it's full, there's a lot of leaves, but that one leaf I would look at and there's veins on it. What is that? What does that mean? Who decided that ecosystem? Who decided, just studying that and the life of that one leaf could lead me to think, alright, and then maybe that makes me progress further to study the tree. Then I need to study the soil, the ground. Somewhere along the way, if we got some intelligence, we're going to think, who's doing all this or has done all this? I don't believe that you just get a packet of seeds from B&Q and put them in the ground and then that produce that. I don't know. What came first?
Chicken or the egg?
Or the tree?
Well, that was some deep philosophical statements there.
Text food?
Is it that we finished that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Whose turn is it?
You?
Okay. Devahuti continued, my dear Lord, please also describe in detail, both for me and for people in general, the continual process of birth and death. For by hearing of such calamities, we may become detached from the activities of this material world. So Devahuti is requesting the Lord to describe in detail for everyone the principle of birth and death. And by hearing about this, birth and death, we might hopefully become detached from material-like activities. So having said that, we know that just recently it was announced the death of the Queen, which is an all-change program. By the death of one person, everything changes. And that isn't even in an age where being the queen is like really such a humongously big deal. I mean, it's kind of more like almost like a tourist attraction or a kind of...
in the sense they don't have the powers like to chop your head off and
yeah, they don't have... Well, the queen would normally have absolute power.
Yeah.
She doesn't. And so therefore her whole... The stature of the name, the queen, is minimized to just simply a kind of figurehead, as it were.
Yeah.
Although she's done it for the longest out of anyone, and that may be because, you know, she didn't have the power. Had she had the power, someone might have overthrown her and chopped her head off by now. But nevertheless, all glories to her. All glories to her.
We're not Republicans, mind you.
She did it, and she did it nicely, and it's glorious. But the point is, death comes, and with death, many tribulations. So let's hear.
Yeah, let's hear.
In case you weren't hearing then. In this verse, the word samshritaha, shriti, samshritihi, is very important. Shreya Shriti means the prosperous path of advancement towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and samsriti means the continued journey on the path of birth and death towards the darkest region of material existence. People who have no knowledge of this material world, God, and their actual intimate relationship with Him, are actually going to the darkest region of material existence in the name of progress in the material advancement of civilization. To enter the darkest region of material existence means to enter into a species of life other than the human species. Ignorant men do not know that after this life they are completely under the grip of material nature and will be offered a life which may not be very congenial. How a living entity gets different kinds of bodies will be explained in the next chapter. This continual change of bodies and birth and death is called samsara. Devahuti requests her glorious son Kapila Muni to explain about this continued journey, to impress upon the conditioned souls that they are undergoing a path of degradation by not understanding the path of bhakti yoga and devotional service. And it seems that all the people here could use a little bit of education in this matter. It's just the nature of living beings in this world to try our utmost to enjoy the material senses and the material energy while we can, until something devastating happens, and then we cry the blues and blame someone else or blame God or something like that. So yeah, it sort of takes a very difficult, traumatic situation sometimes to wake us up to the reality, to the fact that this world is actually a place of repeated birth and death, suffering. And still, I say that, and we think, is that real? Is that the truth? Yeah. But let's be positive. Anyway, that's my thought. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. But like I was saying, I think it might have been in the previous reading or whatever that. Yeah, material nature is so designed that we regularly get slapped, and the biggest slap is death around us. And it may temporarily set you back and think, and set your thinking. And I mean, even as devotees, but like it was just my own realization. Like I was saying in the previous one, when one friend, like a god sister of ours, her death anniversary came up, and it's in the diary, so I was thinking about it. But life goes on. I mean, I'm just being on it, So the time and you think, and then the time it happened, it was very sad, and each year when I see it, I do think, okay, where is she now? What is she doing? But it's this material energy. And if for someone, and I don't mean I'm someone spiritually, but at least have a little knowledge, it's so covering, then these people who don't around us, you know, she don't even have to try, Maya. She's just got you. You know, she just has to wiggle her little finger, and it's so strong. I've been having a lot of realizations like that lately. Yes, very, very. But as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that if you surrender unto Him, because material energy is under Him, we can remove that covering, and also that's what I'm getting from this, that we need to engage in some sort of personal relationship and really get serious and get that concept, you know, because you can be on autopilot for a long time in Krishna consciousness before you get it. And you can enjoy, and there's no harm, because let's be honest, we're all going to live in this material life, so enjoy some way. So if I'm going to enjoy in bhakti yoga and autopilot, following the regs, whatever, and trying my best, better than what I could be doing.
Yeah.
But we don't want to do that. We want to dive deeper, so.
Dive deep into some what?
No, when you dive deeper into the process.
Okay. Maybe read number 4 and finish.
Alright. Please also describe.
Because we might dive too deep.
Please also describe eternal time, which is a representation of your form, and by whose influence people in general engage in the performance of pious activities. Purport. However ignorant one may be regarding the path of good fortune and the path down to the darkest region of ignorance, everyone is aware of the influence of eternal time, which devours all the effects of our material activities. The body is born at a certain time, and immediately the influence of time acts upon it. From the date of the birth of the body, the influence of death is also acting. The advancement of age entails the influence of time on the body. If a man is 30 or 50 years old, then the influence of time has already devoured 30 or 50 years of the duration of his life.
50 years has been devoured.
Yeah, it's true. When I look in the mirror, I keep seeing white hairs. It's very upsetting, I must say. I might have to get a wig.
Time is slowly, time is a one-way street. Get up with it, get with it, get on your feet. It's not really much else we can do, except utilize every second of our time that we can.
Thing's falling.
Oopsie daisy.
Oh, that's going to make a horrible sound. Sorry. When you touch it, it goes.
So, time. We have a choice to try to utilize as much of our time as possible in creating that relationship with God, with Krishna. And if we don't, then time is just being devoured away uselessly. But if we aren't, to the extent that we are engaging in that time, Bhagavatam also explains there is no rising and setting of the sun, because the rising and setting of the sun is the passage of time that is slowly devouring, and it means life is passing. But for a devotee who's engaging the time in between the rising and setting is steeped in eternity. So they're not being affected by time in the same way. So, my thoughts on it. Shall I read the last paragraph?
Yeah.
Everyone is conscious of the last stage of life, when he will meet the cruel hands of death. But some consider their age and circumstances, concern themselves with the influence of time, and thus engage in pious activities, so that in the future they will not be put into a low family or animal species. Well, good for them. A lot of people don't. Generally, people are attached to sense enjoyment and so aspire for life in the heavenly planets. Therefore, they engage themselves in charitable or other pious activities. But actually, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one cannot get relief from the chain of birth and death, even if he goes to the highest planet, Brahmaloka, Brahma Bhuvana Loke, because the influence of time is present everywhere within this material world. In the spiritual world, however, the time factor has no influence. So there you go. So on the spiritual platform, any activities conducted on the spiritual platform are not influenced by time. And if we're conducting those activities in the world of time, they're still not affected by time because they are steeped in, as I said, the principle of eternality. So eternality is unaffected by time because it's eternal. Thoughts?
No.
What's the malfunction?
Is that thing on?
What thing? Yes.
Okay. Sorry. I thought you might forget to turn the microphone on.
I hope not.
I hope not too, but I don't see it moving.
Well, it's because it goes into
Oh.
whatchamacallit, like sleep mode.
But I think, talking of time, alright, talking of time, I think time's up now.
Okay, thank you all very much. Sorry it might be a little bit of a noisy, loud, commotion reading. We'll try for a more peaceful one. It's not the Grand Canyon, that's for sure. Hare Krishna everyone. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.